Vlad, so good to be here with you today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's start by you telling me exactly what your company does in the simplest of terms.
Basically, we create a design animation software that enables everyone from designers to non-designers, big brands, to create either amazing creative assets or generate just illustrations, performance marketing assets, like all the kind of visuals that we know and love everywhere in the world.
Very cool. Can you give me some examples of use cases that our audience might know or see from your product?
Yeah, so for example, in Disneyland Paris, they have some marketing illustrations in different hotels that was created with linearity curve.
Very cool. So I want you to take me back to your founding story. How did this all begin for you?
So basically, I was 10, creating small illustrations with Microsoft Paint, and then over time, when the iPhone 4 came out with the Retina display, everything became blurred on my blog. So I was like, well, there must be a way to actually create those designs without having the blurriness or resolution independence. Came across Adobe Illustrator, found that one very frustrating to use, and it was like, well, why not just create the next generation that is mobile first, easy to use, and really empowers people that don't have a design background to become a designer and create the assets that they want.
What made you think, like, okay, I am ready to take the dive into entrepreneurship at such a young age?
I guess it just happened. Like, I always was inspired by the typical names like Steve Jobs and all the founding stories. But generally, started coding, enjoyed it quite a lot during high school, basically. And then a couple years later, in 2017, a lot of people noticed or heard about back then Vectornator, and we're like, well, where can we buy it? And I was like, well, if you want to buy it, sure, let's just put it on the App Store. And then we basically put it there with no marketing and exploded overnight, which was kind of exciting journey.
And when you say it exploded overnight, can you talk to me about that growth and how that compares to what you're seeing now?
Yeah, so for a very immature product back then, we did like 40,000 revenue overnight with no marketing, pretty much, while I was still in high school. So basically my parents were a bit confused what happened, and at the same time it was kind of like a kickstart to really notice that there's a huge market for basic design software, and that everything out there is not quite what people love or want to love, and that got the ball rolling, basically.
Now, I think it's incredible that you were in high school when you started this company. How did your parents feel, like seeing all this money coming into you so young, and then you saying, you know what, I'm gonna definitely go all in and be an entrepreneur?
So, long story, but basically in Germany you have to be 18, or probably in most countries, to found a company. And my mom was technically the founder because I couldn't found it myself. And she basically blackmailed me that if I don't finish school, I will not get the shares.
So with That's a great trick.
Yeah, with that basically I was forced to finish.
How did you feel when she said that?
Pressured.
Very fair. So you mentioned Adobe Illustrator. How does your product, how do you set your product apart from things like Adobe Illustrator, and what makes you stand out from other competitors?
So the way it started was pretty much about being mobile first, intuitive, making it way more natural to create assets, because it doesn't quite make sense if you think about it to really design things with a mouse, for example, instead of like naturally on a paper with a pencil. So the iPad felt very natural, and then over time we got a lot of feedback about people using linearity curve for different animations, for different marketing videos, and we're like, wait a second. It's way too complicated to create those. The only tool out there is not specialized for it. It can really be used for everything from huge blockbuster movies down to simple marketing animations. And we said, well, why don't we just create a platform for everything visuals, for marketing teams, that basically enables people to create the assets itself with linearity curve. Later on, bring it over to linearity move and really make animations as easy as clicking 3 buttons and getting it done in a couple of minutes instead of weeks or months.
Now, I'm sure people ask you this a lot, but also how does it differ from, Canva or Figma or those other, more amateur design softwares out there for people like me who may not be an Illustrator or someone who does it professionally?
Yeah, with Figma, we don't see each other as competitors. Okay. Their focus is pretty much on product design, developer handoff, and all the kind of like UI design side of things or web pages, while we are very focused on marketing side of things and very creative about how to create graphic, like illustrations, for example, and marketing assets pretty much.
Makes sense. So talk to me about your fundraising journey. How much have you raised, and walk me through it from the very beginning?
Yeah, so it all started with our seed round in 2017. Still in high school back then. Found a couple of angel investors that really understood the product and were like, oh, we would love to coach you, which is understandable given that probably with 17 the entire world looks a bit different than what it really does. And then later on, of course, we expanded with our proper seed round with Holzbring Ventures, and the latest one with EQT Ventures, where we have an amazing partner that really understands the design ecosystem and had a couple of agencies before.
Very cool. And how at 17 were you able to find these angel investors? Because I would have no idea as a high schooler where to start.
I think I always had like the compelling story, so people ended up reaching out, which made things, of course, much easier. And then they, of course, had a network, and then suddenly we had Don Lindsay, for example, on our board, who worked with Steve Jobs back in the days.
What has been the most challenging part of running your company?
The most challenging one, complicated. I guess it's probably a lack of experience beforehand. Probably if you found a company later on, you've seen at least how another organization looks from the inside, how, for example, Google operates, etc. And if you're completely blank, then it's a lot of figuring out and asking people for advice.
Now, talk to me about the number of clients you have, and if you're able to name any, that would be great as well.
Yeah, so basically we have more than 500,000 active users that use both products on a regular basis, and some of the brands include SpaceX, Meta, Hermes, Disney.
What would it take for you to sell your company, and is that the goal?
Well, I guess I always wanted to really get the company to a point where everyone is really enabled to create design assets everywhere. And I wasn't really the one that looked for how to optimize the exit. So I think it's still a long journey ahead, and excited for it.
So now you've raised 35 million euros in funding. What has that amount afforded you and your company, and any opportunities you've been able to do because of it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of things that wouldn't have been possible otherwise. Doubling down on product. Also from our investors, we understand that product is everything, and creating a design platform takes a long time. I mean, if you look at Figma, they needed 10 years to really get the first traction. And you need someone that really understands that and really supports in the journey. So for us, there's been product, and just now after we launched our motion tool as well in the beginning of this year, we're going in the scaling phase.
Tell me about that tool. What exactly is it?
Yeah, so it's basically all about enabling non-designers to really animate and create animations everywhere, but also about companies and brands to make animations kind of like storytelling possible for everyone, given that right now animations are just way too expensive. If you outsource it, you end up spending like 5,000 to 50,000 per animated minute. And with us, it's just, if at most 3 days of work for something that otherwise would take months. So really managed to crack down on the optimization side and enable very fast-paced animations at scale, which otherwise wouldn't be possible today.
What is your pricing structure like? I know you said it was expensive to use other things, but what can a user expect from you?
Very lean, basically just $10 per seat if you're a small team, or if you go up in the big organization, 45.
Excellent. So I want to know, and I think everyone has been buzzing about AI. You've probably been asked this a million times, but tell us, how are you thinking about AI in terms of application for your company?
Yeah, totally. So we've also had that on our watch for quite a while, also developed it behind curtains. Will be released very soon, and I think it will have a huge impact on our users. But basically what we already had in the past was all about really taking, for example, a picture of, let's say, a logo you see on the street, being able to completely vectorize it automatically with AI. And where we're going next is, for example, if you have, let's say, a cup of coffee, you can say, well, I would love to have that cup of coffee inside on a beach on a sunny day. Then we are able to auto-animate that one and create a 3D scene about it. So what we had as a use case as well with some of the companies that got pre-access, with perfume bottles, they take one shot, change the entire environment, and then we create an animation around it moving, where basically just need one picture, and then we do entire 3D animation with animated text on top and all the kind of like auto-creating an ad.
Yeah,
without really
awesome.
Spending a lot of time on it. Very
cool. Now, what else is exciting you in 2024? Any future projects on the horizon that you can tell us about?
Yeah, so basically I think the thing that we're going for is all about the motion tool and enabling collaboration across teams. Also, our motion tool has just come out, so it's more or less pretty much just, as you can see, like a small beta, where we're still working exclusively with like some small companies to really double down and get feedback in and iterate on what it will become later on. But ultimately, it's all about collaborating and really closing the gap between design, animation, and kickstarting assets very quickly.
So I'm curious, as a very young founder, how did you approach hiring people who potentially were older than you and had maybe more experience than you? And how do you manage people when you're such a young founder yourself?
Basically, I guess it all started with me hiring my friends, which went sideways sometimes, but was a good start. Also getting more direct feedback than other people might say. But over time, of course, I also got in a very experienced leadership team that helps with other things. So remember, our CTO was at Beat before, which is a sister company of FreeNow, managed a couple of hundred developers there. Our VP marketing coming from Bolt, setting up the entire food delivery team. So those people, of course, have a huge impact in being able to kind of filter out what I'm saying and give it to the rest of the team so that they don't go crazy. But I'm probably definitely not the easiest one to work with.
Is it challenging to work with them? Do you ever feel any sense of imposter syndrome?
No, it's quite good, I guess I would say. Also, I improved a lot. I'm also now 24, so I'm doing it for quite a while as well. But still lots of upside on how to handle it.
Excellent. And last question for you, what would you like your legacy to be? I
think I would be very happy to know that we enable a lot of people to really express our creativity, to enable storytelling and enable more fun to watch, engaging content in the world. And we stop seeing the very boring kind of like static ads that sometimes buzz around and are really annoying, like on everyone's screen.
That would be great. Well, thank you so much, Vlad. I appreciate you sitting down with me.
Thank you.